Good Saturday evening. Hi, guys. How are y'all doing? How have you been spending your Saturday, your weekend? I have had a pretty full day. My law firm had an event in the park today, a back to school community event. So that had me tied up part of the day. But I am ready to have our conversation, as I promised, about the Becoming Brigitte series by Candace Owens. I have finally finished watching the entire series from the introduction to the epilogue. I've watched it all, every minute. I have come to my conclusion about the series. I will definitely share that with you all. Let me know if you have watched it. If you have, give me a thumbs up. If you have not, give me a thumbs down. Let me know if you have watched it. And we can talk about what our opinions are. So when I first started talking about the Candace Owens series when the lawsuit was filed, and that's how I frankly fell into watching it, because I did a video that went viral over on TikTok about the series, and people kept saying, you've got to watch the series to understand Candace's point of view, to understand the evidence that she has. So I said, okay, I want to make sure I have all the facts, all the information necessary to have an opinion about the defamation lawsuit. So I said I will watch the entire series, and I did. I watched each and every episode. I watched the interview with Xavier Passard, because people kept saying, oh, you've got to watch the interview with Xavier Passard. So I now feel confident that I have all the information that I need to have. And people keep saying, oh, watch the Tucker Carlson interview, watch this, watch that. Well, when they filed the lawsuit, they filed it based on the series. So I have the information that her attorneys had when they filed the lawsuit. So I'm not watching anything else related to this series or Candace. I have enough information. I'm done. I've taken one for the team. I've done my videos telling you all what it's about. If you didn't watch it and you don't want to watch it, I have now done a video about each and every episode. I'm not watching anything else. So this is my last live. Maybe, we may talk about the lawsuit some more. But as far as the series is concerned, I feel like, this is our epilogue. This is our conclusion. We've come to an end in discussing the series. So if you have watched it, let me know in the comments. Let me know if you've watched it. Let me know what your position is. If you believe every word she said, let me know that. If you don't believe it, let me know that. Ann Rogers says, I don't believe the jurors will watch the series in court. Do you? I think portions of the series, if this actually goes to trial, I think, yes, portions of the series will absolutely be relevant. In the lawsuit that is filed, and they actually quote from her series. So yes, the jurors may very well watch in court portions of the series. So that's about 8 hours. There's an introduction, then the introduction, then 7 more episodes. People initially were saying 8, but I only found 7. I think they were saying 8 because there was a short interview with Xavier Passard. Then on her website, there's the full interview. So I actually went to her website, found the full interview, watched the entire interview. So I have um, watched all that I think I need to watch. I watched what you all suggested I watch, and I'm done. Casey says Candace and facts don't go together. Candace doesn't believe what she said. Now that's a very interesting thing that you said, Casey. That she doesn't believe what she's saying. And I really wonder, does she believe what she's saying in this series? Now she has made a lot of money um, based on this series. She's gotten a lot of attention. She's also gotten herself a pretty expensive defamation lawsuit that can have some pretty serious consequences for her. But does she really believe it? So let me share a story with you all. So my one of my daughters, when she was starting college, this was actually she was going into her freshman year, and she was going to. Both my daughters went to Ivy League school, so she's going to this fancy Ivy League school, and she had gone to a boarding school, and she had been invited to a dinner at the beginning of the term. And the parents were invited. So we go to this dinner, and I meet this this lady that I really hit it off with. We hit it off with each other. She had a child who was going to the same school, same class. And it turns out that this lady was the CEO of a conservative media organization. At the time, I didn't know it, but it's like one of the biggest conservative media companies. And she was the CEO of this company. And I mean, sometimes you meet people, you just kind of hit it off with them. And so we really hit it off. And so we're talking, we're laughing, and we start talking about politics. And she tells me who she is, the company that she is the CEO of. And I think I Googled the company after she told me because I wasn't familiar with it. And so I Googled it and I was like, oh shit, like all these conservative folks, conservative radio people, television people, this is her, this is the company this woman was running. And this woman told me something that at the time I just kind of tucked away. So she was talking about one of the big conservative stars that worked for the company. She said, he does not believe the things that he is saying. And they laugh at the people who do believe these things, that they literally make fun of their audience, the people who believe them. And when she said that, I was like, that's kind of effed up. That's really effed up. But I didn't really pay much attention to it because I have never been one to watch conservative channels. Like I'm not a Fox person. I never followed the conspiracy theories. I never went down the rabbit hole. So, I never really, thought about what deeply about what she said. But as I was watching the Candace Owens series, it struck me that maybe, just maybe, Candace does not believe what she's saying, that she's using this because the people she's feeding it to, they are eating it up. She's getting, millions of views. She is getting financial benefit from this, I would assume. So does she really believe it? So that was what I was wondering. And is this just what that lady was telling me, that these people, spit out this stuff, their audience members, they eat it up, but they're not even buying it. And they're basically laughing at the people that they're feeding it to. So that is a good question. I don't know if Candace believes this or not, but I know that the people who are watching it, they are believing it. They are defending it. They are repeating it. They are expanding upon it. So I don't know if she believes it or not. So we shall find out. We shall find out. Is this going to be an Alex Jones type situation where she's going to lose a ton of money as a result of this? Because right now, just Bridget and Emmanuel Macron have sued her. Based on the series, there are a lot of other people who could sue her. John Michel, he could bring a lawsuit easily. Jean Jacques, he could bring one. Um, let's see, the parents, Emmanuel Macron's parents, both of them, they could bring lawsuits against her for defamation. There are a lot of people who could be suing her. So we'll see. We'll see how this all plays out. The Midnight Girl says she believes it. But why? Why do you think she believes it? This is messed up. Seems like a lot of unconscious people. I think she's doing it for the money. I don't think she believes it though. Candace to me strikes me as someone who's very smart, and that makes me wonder if she really believes this. And another thing, so in the lawsuit, they talk about Candace's background. I didn't know anything about her background. Did y'all know? Are y'all aware of Candace's background, like her evolution to where she is now? Because I had no idea. She's not somebody I was ever tuned into. Um, but what? So in the lawsuit, and I'm assuming, I don't know. I'm gonna assume for the moment that the allegations in the lawsuit are true, and they paint Candace as somebody who switched her political viewpoints and who switched her beliefs for money. They basically, in this lawsuit, they basically called her a grifter. And, somebody who is willing to switch from being to somebody who's willing to become this conservative because it was profitable and it was convenient for her. Because so this is directly from the lawsuit. Let's see. She used to be a model intern. Candace is out for the money. It says she sued her school, ISD, with the NAACP when she was in high school. Too bad she is not willing to do a blood test and say, here you go, no pay up. So ZB is saying, too bad she is not willing to do a blood test. Perhaps she will do a blood test. So I can't believe the Macrons filed this lawsuit without knowing there is a possibility that they may have to do that. So we're early in the lawsuit. Perhaps they will. Perhaps they will. We'll have to wait and see. Have you seen Brigitte in the swimsuit? So everybody has said that. Said, oh, did you see that thing hanging down? Did you see her in the swimsuit? Yes, I did see that. I don't know what was going on, but my first assumption is not that that was a penis. Whoops. I don't know if I can say that on TikTok or YouTube. So let me be careful because sometimes I get in trouble. So I don't know what that was. And I'm not going to assume. Y'all remember oh my God, the lady on TikTok who is transgender. What is her name? Oh my gosh. She has the husband that she cooks for, and she calls his name, when it's time for him to eat. Y'all know who I'm talking about. I remember when I first came across her, and in my office, half the people were convinced she was biologically female, and half were convinced she was male. So, and we saw this woman in a swimsuit, Charles and Netta, Charles and Netta. Half the people were convinced Miss Netta was biologically female. Half were convinced she was male. We saw her in a swimsuit. somebody pointed out, those are breasts. That is a woman. Look at her in that swimsuit. Well, now we know the truth is she is a man. She was born biologically a male. So I'm not that doesn't prove anything to me. Well, that's not proof. So Amy Adventure says there may be many things that don't add up for us because we are not intimately involved in the family details of these people. As I listened to the last episode today, she talked about how, there are no pictures of Emmanuel Macron with his parents as a child. Perhaps his parents don't want their pictures in the public sphere. I mean, people have a right to privacy, especially his parents. His parents are not the politicians, so maybe they don't want their pictures in the public sphere. So those things to me, though, first of all, that's not evidence. The fact that you have questions about why you haven't seen photographs, that's not evidence. And um, it what Candace did was she planted all these seeds about people, and we don't know. I mean, if you are inclined to believe what she's saying, then yes, you're going to see all of these things as evidence of something nefarious going on. And also the way she presented things, I have a suspicion based on some things in the complaint that the way she presented things left off key information. And if you had the full information, you may not think it's suspicious. But in the complaint itself, it talks about how Candace was not always an extreme, she didn't always espouse extreme right wing ideals. And it says she was born in White Plains, New York, and raised in Stamford, Connecticut. She graduated from high school in 2007, attended the University of Rhode Island before leaving due to financial issues. They talked about her having a Vogue internship, and she was later hired as an administrative assistant at a private equity firm in New York. In 2015, she left the financial sector to start a marketing agency called Degree 180. Let's see. Okay, I'm sorry, I lost my way. Degree 180's website featured a blog that gained notoriety for publishing progressive, anti-conservative, and anti-Trump content, the exact opposite of her current views. I didn't know any of that about Candace. I didn't know anything about her background. That all changed in 2016 when Owens launched Social Autopsy, a website that aimed to expose individuals responsible for online harassment by publishing their identities. The project was condemned across the political spectrum, with both conservatives and progressive voices expressing concern over privacy and potential misuse. In retaliation, critics shared Owens' personal information online, and she attributed this to two progressives. So she thought these progressives had done that. Owens publicly stated that this was the catalyst for her ideological shift, remarking, "I became conservative overnight." So that's kind of how she evolved. And they go on to talk some more about how she got hooked up with people like Charlie Kirk and Alex Jones and that kind of stuff. So somebody mentioned that the complaint says Candace Macron is part of an MK Ultra. Is part of MK Ultra. Sounds crazy. Okay, so because I watched the entire series, all of the episodes, I recall that she talks about MK Ultra. Now, before I watched her series, I had no idea what MK Ultra was. And it is allegedly some type of CIA program that was used to control people. They use sexual perversion, they use drugs, they use isolation to control people in this program. And she makes the implication that Emmanuel Macron may have somehow been part of this program, and that he is some type of Manchurian candidate where he was groomed and programmed, and he's being mind controlled to act on behalf of something like MK Ultra, or some organization is controlling him. So yes, it sounds kind of wild. It sounds kind of far fetched. And there's a book she suggested you read that talks about MK Ultra. Like I said, I am not in the habit of going down rabbit holes of conspiracy theories, so I think I'm going to pass on reading that book. It is Macron was literally in TikTok live. They're on TikTok. So somebody is saying the Macrons are on TikTok live, that he was doing a TikTok live. Can somebody explain what you mean by that? So somebody, Gigi says, I thought she had a college degree. According to this lawsuit, she does not. So I don't know. So yeah, people are saying she dropped out of college her junior year. That's what the lawsuit says. Now Candace is reaching for an audience when she broke from the Daily Wire because of, yes, most of her conservative support was burned. They talk about that also in the lawsuit. How she how she was fired from the Daily Wire. So yeah, so they talk about that also. So the lawsuit itself has so much background information. It has a lot of, so as an American, I don't know a lot about the Macrons. I know very little. All I knew before all of this broke with this lawsuit is that she was much older than him and they had a relationship when he was in high school. That was all I knew. And but in the lawsuit, they talk about their background, and they talk quite extensively about um, about Candace's background, and they talk about a lot about the history of how she got to this point. And they even talk about Alex Jones. Yeah, so y'all know Alex Jones was sued. He is indebted to some of the Sandy Hook parents for millions of dollars. And he has had to liquidate, well, he has tried to file bankruptcy for his companies to try to avoid paying them. But in the lawsuit, they say she continuing to capitalize on the attention of sensational figures and known liars. Owens published a post by Alex Jones, a notorious defamer who owes $1.5 billion to the families of the Sandy Hook shooting victims for his malicious lies, and repeated her false allegations. Jones is one of the most unreliable sources imaginable. So yes, I mean, this lawsuit is like an interesting read, really. It's 200 pages. It's like a little novel, especially all of the factual allegations at the beginning of the lawsuit. So does Brigitte have to prove she's a woman? Someone is asking. So Brigitte And I started saying Bridget because I was watching a video and they were like, the English pronunciation of her name is Bridget. And I'm English, I'm American. So she must prove that the allegations are false. She is the plaintiff. She has the burden of proof. Candace technically does not have to prove anything. She does not have to prove, but she doesn't have to prove anything, but the truth is a defense to her claims. So Bridget does in fact have to prove that the claims are false. So she has to prove that Candace's claim that she is a biological male is false. Now, how does she do that? So there are lots of ways that she could potentially do that. She could do it with her birth certificate, which is an official document. She could do it through witnesses who testify about her being a biological woman. She could do it with doctors who testify about her being a biological woman. She can testify about it. She can, and she could also do it with a DNA test. Now, is she going to want to do a DNA test? Do y'all think it's reasonable for her to do a DNA test? I think if they want to put this to rest as quickly as possible, they would do a DNA test. But how many people are going to look at the DNA test and say it's fake? How many people are going to say the DNA test is fake? It's made up. They had their own doctors. They paid the labs. How many people are going to question the DNA test? So if you believe these claims that Candace is pushing, if you believe what she's saying is true, tell me, put in the comments, are you going to believe the DNA test? What is it going to take for you to believe it? So if the Macrons pull out a DNA test tomorrow and their attorneys say, here's the DNA test, she's a biological woman, what are you going to say? Because I know what people are going to say. They're going to say, oh, they paid someone to do that. They're going to say that's fake. They're going to say it's not real. So they're kind of in a, for the people who are inclined to believe Candace, I don't know if they can come up with any information that they are going to believe. So is there anything that's going to satisfy you? Tell me, is there anything that's going to satisfy you? Are you going to have to um, see her anatomy for yourself? And then even then, you'll say, oh, it's surgery. Because, Candace said in the series that there's a doctor in France who performed feminization surgery on Brigitte. So tell me, what will it take for you to be convinced? Because it's very interesting to me that the people who are inclined, hey, Easy, okay, I see Easy is a TikTok friend of mine, but he's over on YouTube. But anyways, so for people who are inclined to believe this, you are holding the Macrons to a level of scrutiny with their evidence that you have not held Candace to. In Candace's series, there is no evidence. And when I say evidence, I mean something that would potentially be admissible in court. The closest thing she presented that is actual evidence that I could potentially see a court allowing after it's been tested, after experts have reviewed it and are offering testimony about, is potentially the photo analysis, potentially. But that's not going to trump her actual living brother appearing and saying, I am Jean-Michel or other evidence that she could present saying she is in fact a biological woman. So, yes, Candace does not need to prove anything, but Candace, in defending herself, the easiest way for her to defend herself is by offering evidence that what she said was the truth. So, in defamation cases, the truth is a complete defense. So, Candace will be filing an answer soon. I can't wait to see her answer. And her answer is going to give us some insight about where she's going with this lawsuit. Now, she has said recently that she intends to fight this tooth and nail 100%. You know, she's going to the mat on this. But we'll see. We'll see if she continues. Make it a gut feeling to people. Maybe it's a gut feeling to people. Yeah, but your gut is not evidence. Your gut is not admissible. Your gut can't even testify in court. So, so this is another. How many children does Candace have? I think Candace has like 3 boys. In the series, she talked about her children, and I think she has like 3. There will be discovery. Yes, there will be discovery. I hope the Macrons are prepared for the level and the breadth of discovery that is allowed in the US. So the Macrons are coming from France. France have what's called the civil codes. In the US, we have common law. So we took our judicial system from the British. So I grew up in Louisiana, and Louisiana is based on the Napoleonic Code, the civil codes, which is very, very different. So I have taken and passed 5 bar exams: Georgia, Ohio, Massachusetts, California, and North Carolina. I took these bar exams, I passed them. I wanted to take the Louisiana bar exam. It's my home state. I felt one day I might move back there. Let me take the Louisiana bar exam. I was going through a divorce and I was trying to figure out what the hell I was going to do. And I was like, I'm moving home. So I said, let me take the Louisiana bar exam. Oh, I could not wrap my mind around the materials for the Louisiana bar exam. I could not, I mean, it just would not click. I could not get it. The law was just so, I mean, in practice, it may not be that different, but studying for that bar exam, it was very challenging, very difficult. And ultimately, I decided not to take the test because I didn't think I would pass. So, and I say that just to say that the Macrons may be coming from a very different type of legal system. And they may be very surprised at how intrusive the American discovery process is. We can get into the standard for our discovery is whether it's even possible that it's relevant. It may not even be admissible, but it is it possible that it's relevant? So that gives you a lot of leeway. And I'm sure their attorneys have prepared them for how intrusive it may be, but they really need to be prepared for that. And it is not unreasonable for Candace to seek a DNA test or medical testing. That's not unreasonable at all. In civil cases, so I handle personal injury cases. In civil cases, that request is made by the defense all the time. I wouldn't say all the time, but in cases where our clients are claiming significant physical injuries, the defense will request a medical examination. It's called an independent medical examination, an IME. Do we object every single time? Absolutely. We file a motion to try to prevent it. We give the judges all these reasons why it shouldn't happen, because it's intrusive, it's unnecessary. And most of the times the judges will allow it. So that is a real possibility. Jenny says they're far away and friends. After all is said and done, how does any of this benefit anybody? I don't know. Why our conversation about whether she is male, female, I don't know. I don't know why who it benefits. But the other thing that I got from the series is that, yes, she's talking about whether she is transgender, but it really feels like there's this other agenda that's going on, and that she is advocating for, and it has to do with this belief that there's widespread pedophilia and child abuse that's taking place. And she spends a lot of time in her series talking about the people who the Macrons are allegedly friends with, associate with, who they've worked with, and how those people are pedophiles or transgenders, or they support transgender people. You know, you all, if you watch the series, y'all know about her claims regarding Emmanuel Macron's mother. So his mother's a pediatrician, his father was a psychologist. Candace found this very suspicious, that they were in those professions. And according to her, the mother worked for the Social Security office in France, and she supported people changing their sex, and so she supported transgender people allegedly. And for Candace, that was some kind of evidence, proof, suspicion that they were all up to bad things. I mean, it's hard for me to really articulate because she doesn't come outright and say that she supported transgender people, therefore she's in favor of abuse, or she would have supported Brigitte being transgender. I mean, she doesn't come straight out and say what the accusation is, but it's clear that there's an accusation, and it's a bad accusation. So, and they also talk extensively, and somebody in the comments, Patricia Black, is saying, are you denying that was an inappropriate relationship? They talk extensively, Candace talks extensively about the fact that the relationship started when Emmanuel Macron was a teenager. And no, I don't deny, I mean, I don't want to say it's not my place to deny, but no, I don't deny that the relationship started when he was a teen. For us in the United States, completely inappropriate. I was told that in France at that time, the age of consent was 14. And although it was 14, teachers still were not allowed to have relationships with their students. But apparently that's what happened. So, no, nobody's denying that. But that does not mean Brigitte is a male, that she's transgender. I mean, okay, so even if you're saying that, the relationship started inappropriately, how does that make her male? How does that happen? And please, 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 nobody in the comments say anything about Brigitte being Emmanuel Macron's father. Please don't say that. And yes, I watched every single minute of the episodes of this series. I watched it from the introduction to the epilogue to the very last second. I watched all of it. Do not say Brigitte is Emmanuel Macron's father, because that's what Candace theorizes in the last episode. And Candace herself says, in this last episode, in the epilogue, I'm going to theorize. She does not say she believes this. She does not make affirmative statements about it. She says she's theorizing. But please don't say that, because Candace says she was theorizing. And there's absolutely no basis for her to even for us to believe that or think that, or for somebody to even have that thought. Throughout the episode, she talks about Emmanuel Macron's parents, the psychologist and the pediatrician. So we know, he has two parents. They were identified, those two parents. She has problems with their profession, but how do we jump from the fact that, nobody has seen pictures of Emmanuel Macron with his parents, to Brigitte is his father? That is just crazy to me. And I was waiting. So I promise y'all, when people started saying, you got to watch the series, you got to watch the whole series, I was like, I'm watching this series because there must be something there. There must be something there. There's absolutely nothing there. There's nothing. How can you say there's no basis? Because there isn't. It's somebody's thought. It's somebody's crazy thought that's not backed up with anything. So tell me, for anyone who believes that is true, tell me why you believe that is true. The only thing Candace says is that there are no pictures with Emmanuel Macron with his parents when he was a child. And he doesn't talk about them extensively in his book. He only devotes 2 pages to talking about his parents, 5 pages to talking about his grandmother, and 2 sentences to talking about his 2 siblings. And he doesn't mention his third sibling, who is a half sibling. That's it. I mean, tell me, if you're going to tell me that there is a basis to say that Brigitte is Emmanuel Macron's father, tell me something that you can repeat before a judge and jury. Tell me something that a judge would say that is admissible evidence. So I have not seen it. That there was, and also let's talk about Xavier Broussard, who was supposed to be the person who had all the evidence to back up what Candace was saying. And he has written a book that you can get on Amazon. She says that about 1,000 times in the series. And so finally there's this interview with him, and I'm like, y'all, you've got to be effing kidding me. You cannot be serious that this is the entirety of the interview that is supposed to leave me with the confidence that what she's claiming is true. I'm like, man, something is wrong. Something is wrong for us to even be having this discussion. So somebody says, you keep missing the point. Candace does not have to prove anything at all. No, I'm not missing that point at all. Candace does not have to prove anything at all. But Candace's defense, a complete defense to any defamation claim, is the truth. So if somebody is suing me for defamation and my claim is that the allegations are true, this is my defense, that the allegations are true. And if I want to defend myself, the easiest way for me to do that is to show that what I said was the truth. Now, it is very clear that Candace's defense is not going to be the truth. Her defense is going to be, I believed what I was saying. I believed it. And the reason she is able to do that is because the Macrons are public figures, and public figures under United States law have to prove that the person acted with actual malice. And actual malice means they knew they were lying or they acted with reckless disregard for the truth. So Candace can say, I believe what I was saying, but your personal belief, that's not going to be enough. That's not going to be sufficient. She's going to have to show, I'm trying not to hide my bra here. She's going to have to show, or they're going to have to show that her alleged belief that it was the truth was reckless. And they laid the foundation for that. The way they laid the foundation for that, and I'm going to the complaint, so I have my iPad here, and I'm going to the actual complaint. They started sending Candace, they sent her a retraction letter in December of 2024. So they sent her this letter that was 200 pages or over 100 pages, I think she said. And this letter retracted the letter. We haven't seen the letter. Candace didn't show us the letter, but in the lawsuit, they talk about the letter. And they say that the Macrons, through their counsel, sent a detailed retraction demand letter to Owens via email on December 3rd, 2024. And they said they tried to serve her with it. Maybe I read that separately. But anyways, so they sent her this demand retraction letter in December 2024. And they provided credible evidence that what they were alleging, that Brigitte Macron is a biological woman, they provided that to her. And we know from the series that they sent her a second letter in February. And they said they tried to contact her former legal counsel in January of 2025 to facilitate communication, but they received no response. They tried to personally serve her with the December retraction demand on January 9th, 2025, but were first ignored, then blocked by Owens's counsel, who ultimately agreed to accept service by email. And also, let's not forget, Donald Trump called Candace. So remember, Candace said this herself, that she started getting these calls from the White House, and that finally she received a call from Donald Trump. So all these people are trying to give her information to help her understand that her belief is not accurate. So this is how they're going to try to prove that she acted with reckless disregard for the truth. And they're going to, so if this goes to trial, then a jury is going to look at, the evidence that they provided. And, and we don't know everything that they provided. We just know that it was 100 pages or something. And a jury will look at this, and that jury will decide whether it was reasonable for, or if Candace acted recklessly in ignoring that information. Now, this to me would be Candace's best legal move right now, and that would be to have her case removed from Delaware to Tennessee. So they have sued her in Delaware on the basis of her having two companies in the state of Delaware, incorporated in the state of Delaware, and those companies are based in Delaware, and those companies are part of the lawsuit. But if I was Candace, the first thing I would do is try to have the lawsuit removed from Delaware to Tennessee, because Tennessee is going to be a more favorable venue. And no slight to my fellow Southerners. I've lived most of my life, the majority of my life, I have lived in the South. And the part times I didn't live in the South, I wanted to be living in the South. So when I lived in California, I absolutely hated it. But that would be the best. If she could have her lawsuit removed to Tennessee, that would give her. I'm sorry, guys. I gotta plug my phone in over here. If she could have her lawsuit moved to Tennessee, that would give her more of a better playing field. But as it stands, right now she's in Delaware. And there are certainly some arguments her counsel could make about why it should be in Tennessee and not Delaware. But we'll see. So I'm laughing. Somebody said listening to me at 2 times the speed is perfect. People always say you talk too slow. I talk how I talk. This is it. Yes, I talk, whether it's slow or not. This is it. I can't even be. Sometimes in my videos, I try to talk faster, but when I try to talk faster, I'm like, I've been mixing myself up. So I just have to talk the way I talk. And sometimes I will speed up my videos, but most of the time, why did I hate California? Oh my gosh. My kids always ask me that. They think California is would have been such a great place for them to live. So I hated California because the people were not particularly nice. In the South, we have a certain niceness. I didn't feel they were particularly nice. I was far away from my family. That was the real issue. I was far away from home. I always felt like I was in the wrong time zone. I was like, everything has happened, and now we're just finding out or experiencing it in California. So I just didn't like it. Gigi says Tennessee ain't that crazy. Yeah, and I'm not saying that Delaware is very liberal, but I'm just saying she has a better shot in Tennessee. If I was choosing venue for Candace, I would definitely want my case in Tennessee. Somebody says great moonshine, I hear. I agree that the case should be moved out of Delaware because based on corporations. So private nobody is saying the corporations have nothing to do with the lawsuit, but that's not true. They do in fact tie the corporations to the lawsuit because and actually the tie is pretty significant. The corporations published the defamatory material. So she has this the series, but the series is published through her corporations. So they were the ones putting out the defamation. And the reason you have a lawsuit, have a company in the first place is precisely for that reason. So if you are sued, the lawsuit is typically not you personally, it's the corporation. But here she sued personally because she's the one running around talking about Bridget Macron is transgender, but they were the ones who published it. More people need to file their defamation lawsuits against her sooner than later. I'm really interested in whether other people are going to file. So in the lawsuit that the Macrons filed, the brother, John Michel, who she talks about extensively, so she claims Bridget is actually John Michel. That's who she says it is. he is named as a party. He is named, wait a minute, I didn't say that correctly. He is named as a oh my gosh, he's named as a non-party. He's named as a non-party in the lawsuit. So they acknowledge that he has a significant role in this lawsuit. I love Georgia. I don't want to live anyplace else. That's how I feel. Drama must remain on the stage. I intentionally moved to Georgia. So Georgia was my third bar exam. Yeah, I think it was my third bar exam. But I always thought I would live here one day. Will there be any money left to sue for? Good question. Now, I don't know how her finances and her husband's finances overlap or they're intertwined, but the one of the companies that is being sued is called George Tom, and I think her husband is George Thomas. Yeah, it's called George Tom Inc. So I wonder if that's the husband's company. And apparently he's very wealthy, so maybe they're trying to get to the money through him. Andrea says, is anyone going to support Candace when she starts her GoFundMe for her legal defense? She insinuated she might need one in the future. Really? She's already saying that? So who's going to donate to the GoFundMe? I'm going to send thoughts and prayers. I'm not donating. Lisa, if she said that, she said it sarcastically. Oh, no, now. I mean, it's not that far-fetched. I mean, given the time we're living in. Candace was a marketing person and as such realized it is far more lucrative to be a Black conservative. I agree 100% with that. So once I read her background, because before this lawsuit, I didn't know anything about her background. Once I read her background, she is quoted as saying she became conservative overnight. She became conservative overnight. And you know what? I really don't care if she's conservative or whatever. She can do whatever she wants. But can we just keep it factual? Can we keep it truthful? Can we keep it within the realm of reality? Okay. Somebody said, Michael says she's an Umar Johnson female version. That is hilarious. And that's accurate. That is hilarious. Dr. Umar has a GoFundMe going right now. Her husband told her, you best find that money, GoFundMe. Yeah, so the name of that company is George Tom. And that company, that might be where the money is. But I have to believe Candace has made a significant amount of money off her claims. She has to, she has to have made some money off of this. So in the complaint, in the lawsuit that they filed, they go through the episodes and the statements that she made in the episodes that they are saying are defamatory. So they start with episode 1, and this is what they are claiming is the specific false and defamatory statement that she made. And this is from episode 1. She said, I literally told you that every journalist who tries to touch this story, something happens to, okay? And it is a fact that Isabella Fiera was working on the story, had messaged, according to her friends, saying that she had a bombshell about Emmanuel Macron, and appreciate the French press has reported on this. And when she was found dead floating in a river, okay, or a pond, whatever it was, and they, the public, said that she had drowned, and her friend said that she was not suicidal. And the public, the press, said that she had maybe taken pills. I don't remember. So that's one thing. So y'all remember in episode 1 where she claims that they killed this woman? Her claim is that the Macrons had this journalist killed because she was investigating them, and I guess had discovered their secret. So the next thing they claim is defamatory. She says, like I said, every journalist that tries to get this out, yes, this is not a lie. That is the truth. We have upped our security because, and we were responding to the chat, people saying, get yourself some good security. And of course, when you have people walking around your property and you have young children and you understand the extent of the stakes that are in this, getting and upping on your security, that is my right. Now, I don't see how that's defamatory towards them, because she couches it in, she was responding to the people in the chat, but that's one of their claims, that that's defamatory. But this is the big one. I believe Brigitte Macron was born a biological male, okay, and then transitioned into a female. That is my belief. I don't know how many times I can say it. So they are suing her specifically for that. And then for all of you who talk about the Macron's relationship, they are also suing her because she said, and you will never, ever, ever get me to transform my opinion that you were groomed by the person you eventually married in 2007, Brigitte Macron. I believe she's a man. So they are suing for those specific statements. Oh my gosh. Um, so you all were right. Everybody who said to me, "Oh, dang." Okay, so TikTok has restricted me. I don't even know what I said. What did I say? Dang. Okay, so I have been restricted over on TikTok. I'm going to sign off over on TikTok and I'm going to go back on. So let me sign off because they're restricting me, but I'll be back if you're over there. So what did I say? Or somebody may have reported my TikTok because they didn't like what I was saying. Okay, hold on, guys. 1 second. I'm going to go live over there again. I hate when that happens. Okay, so I'm going live back over there again, but I'll have to be careful about what I say so they don't be restricting me. But the people who suggested I watch the series, you were dead correct. You were right on in that I needed to watch the series because the complaint talks so much about the series. And now that I've watched the series, I have context for what's in the complaint. So I needed to watch it. If you're going to talk about the complaint, you really need to watch the series because it all makes sense. So watching the series and then reading the complaint, it makes sense because they talk they talk a lot about what she said in the series. They talk a lot about that. So they talk about the fact and we're just talking about episode 1, how Candace deliberately emphasized the word allegedly before recounting details of Miss Macron's life to indicate Owens's intent to debunk them. Again, she falsely claimed that the December retraction demand failed to address whether or not Brigitte Macron was a man. And yes, that's definitely, she gives you the impression that they never definitively say in the December retraction letter whether or not Brigitte is a man or woman. So they say she outright lied about the December retraction demand to support her false claims of statutory. I got to be careful so I don't get restricted of statutory grape or PDF, twisting facts to fit her preconceived narrative. Owens stated that the December retraction demand was an admission that it was grape. Yep, she does say that. She says that they admitted that. Their assertion is factually and legally incorrect and further republishes the false allegation of criminal conduct. So they're saying everything she said in that episode 1 is false. Everything. Then they go on to episode 2. And I just want to see the specifics that they're saying is defamatory. So they said she made the following specific false and defamatory claim. He turned to his wife to know what to answer about his sister. I don't know about how you guys are feeling right now, but I'm starting to get a little icky feeling. It's all starting to feel a bit, I don't know. And I'm not going to say the word because I might get in trouble. But this is where that claim comes from, that Brigitte is his father. So they are specifically saying that was defamatory. And that is the only specific claim they make in regards to episode 3. Gigi says all she ever had to do was preface her claims that she had heard, some people had said. She tried to do some of that in like around episode 2 and 3. She did try to do that. In episode 1, they have lots of instances where they say she specifically defamed them. Episode 2, there's just one specific. So it did seem like she tried to do that. But when you're saying so much stuff, it's hard. Sam is saying, isn't it quite an ask for the Macrons to prove malice? Candace could be wrong, but she does seem to have a sincerely held belief. Well, that would be, I mean, that is possible. I mean, that's Candace's best defense, and we've kind of talked about that tonight. But they did send her a letter where they provided evidence. They and this is what they're claiming, where they claim they provided evidence to disprove what she was saying. So that's going to be the problem that she has there, that they provided this evidence. Okay. Yeah, there was in I think around episode 4 or 5, we were introduced to Verinique, Veronica. So we were introduced to Verinique, and that was also really, really strange. So we'll have to see if Candace can convince a jury that, she didn't, that she had this sincerely held belief. So, but that is a good defense. That absolutely, that is a good defense, Sam. That is going to be her defense. Absolutely. And if there was a recent case that just happened a few months ago, Sarah Palin. So Sarah Palin sued the New York Times for defamation. And Sarah Palin, uh, had a great case because the New York Times admitted that they had falsely reported something about Sarah Palin. So they admitted it, that what they said was false. So she sues the New York Times. She loses. She appeals. The appeals court sends the case back. Sarah Palin has a second trial against the New York Times for defamation. And the second trial just concluded a few months ago, and Sarah Palin lost a second time. And the reason she lost was because of the actual malice standard. The New York Times, the editor who actually published the information, testified that he sincerely believed at the time what he was publishing. And I think he's or actually I think he testified that it was a mistake, that it was an error. So it was negligence, not a reckless disregard for the truth. And on that basis, the New York Times once again was found not liable for defamation. And somebody points out that the name Verinique just so happened to be the same name as the brother's wife and mother of his children. What a coincidence. Okay, see, this is what Candace did throughout the entire series. Isn't this a coincidence? Isn't it strange that this person, Verinique, was on a show in 1977, and then in 1986, her brother, Jean-Michel, marries a Verinique? Well, this is the thing. Someone in my comments who's from France on one of my videos said Verinique was a very, very, and still is a very popular name in France. So, and then if you just look at it logically, Verinique Drew, the person that the brother married, is still alive. People have spoken to her. Journalists have spoken to her. And Verinique Drew is not the same person who was on that show. I mean, there's no way she could be the same person. She is a woman. She gave birth to a child. So when you think it through, it doesn't really make sense. And I want to see what they say about that being defamatory. So I'm at episode 3. These are the things that they claim in the lawsuit were defamatory in episode 3. She said, we showed you this side by side of current President Emmanuel Macron and a person who was supposed to be Brigitte's nephew, his wife's nephew. But these two people who are not supposed to be in any way related look way too much alike. Now, I don't see how that's defamatory. I mean, yes, there are lots of implications, there are lots of suggestions there, but just reading what she said, and I saw it in the series, I don't think that's defamatory, because she didn't definitively say that there's some connection. She implied it, and she said, yeah, I don't know. But anyways, this is just my opinion. These are just my musings. These are just my thoughts, my theories. Okay, but the next one, she says, there's no conspiracy here. The MK Ultra was real. The government was obsessed with all of these different programs. Really, the main point of them was trying to condition the brain, trying to brainwash people, sometimes through isolation, which it sounds like Emmanuel Macron spent a ton of time isolated throughout his childhood. So that whole little bit where she talks about Emmanuel Macron, the drugs, the parents, all of that. And then the third one is that what really happened to Andre Louise, well, who was cremated very quickly, even though his daughter says he was buried, what really happened to Andre Louise? Did he actually die? Did he escape with the assistance of the LSE Palace? Did he try to escape? Yeah, I'm not sure how that's defamation either. Yeah, I'm not sure. So just looking at this from a legal perspective, now I don't believe any of this stuff that she was saying or implying or suggesting, but I'm not personally, I'm having a little hard time understanding how those specific statements were defamation. But let's go on to episode 4. Oh, they have a lot in episode 4. Okay, this is an example that they have from episode 4 that I think is clearly defamatory if it's not true. If it's really you, Brigitte Macron, and you didn't take on the identity of your sister, so that's when she was saying she took on the identity that Jean-Michel Tragno took on the identity of Brigitte. But I want to see if they say anything about this Verinique. Okay, so to the person who was talking about Verinique, so let's see what y'all are saying here in the comments. I'm getting worried for her. I really hope they don't ruin Candace. Well, Candace is kind of ruining herself. She's kind of doing it to herself. Look at my video. You're going to fall out laughing. All right, Tina, can you DM it to me? Send me your video. I would love a good laugh. Attacking Candace, Lady Quit. I am not attacking Candace. I'm just telling you what she said in her series. I don't believe Candace, but I don't think I'm attacking her. And for those of you who don't follow me, I would appreciate if you give me a follow, whether you're over on TikTok or YouTube. Please consider giving me a follow. I am trying to prepare for September in case there's some changes to our social media in the United States. Hold on one second, guys. I had to get my charger. There might be some changes over on TikTok, so I am trying to transition myself over to the YouTube, just in case. But so if you don't follow me, please give me a follow over on YouTube or on TikTok. Sam says conspiracy theorists fail to understand the basic truth. Everything is connected to everything. Yes. Hence, you can always cherry pick facts and edit out others to make it look like a conspiracy. Thank you, Sam. I agree with that 100%. So this is my first foray into like conspiracy theories. I have never, ever watched anybody's series to try to figure out if some theory that is being thrown out there, if it's true or not. This is the first time, and my head was just like, one day I was like, I got a headache. This is too much. This is too many mental gymnastics for me. Mr. Honor says, Sarah, you can see the face of the real Brigitte on a leaflet flyer in 1989 when she ran for a political seat. I can see that this lady is confused. Tell me specifically where I'm confused. The man lady doth protest too much. I tell you, the comments on Candace's videos are hilarious. They're just funny. They are just funny. But that doesn't mean what she's saying is true. They can be hilarious. The whole thing can be hilarious, but it doesn't mean that it's true. And we are now at the point where we have to bring some evidence. Okay, so Mr. Honor, you were saying, you brought up the whole thing about Verinique. And let me just read from the lawsuit what they're saying about Verinique, what their response is to it. So they filed the lawsuit, and in many ways, they're really responding to Candace's claims in her series. And Candace, in about 30 days, she will have an opportunity to respond to the lawsuit. Okay, so they say to further amplify her identity theft claims, Owens concocted a theory that Mrs. Macron gave an interview under the name Verinique, an openly transgender individual, in 1977. Owens said the voice was exactly the same as Mrs. Macron's, according to an AI voice analysis. But Owens admitted she doesn't know much about these softwares and provided no evidence that the analysis exists. Owens used this interview to bolster her claim that Jean Michel transitioned to Mrs. Macron because Jean Michel was married to a woman named Verinique. Owens described the marriage as only on paper, implying that it was a front for this transition. And remember, at that time, gay marriage was illegal. So legally, in France, United States, people who were not biologically male and female, people who were of opposite sexes could not, people who are of the same sexes could not marry. To make this claim, not only did Owens ignore publicly available videos and photos of Jean Michel, including from President Macron's inauguration, but she also ignored facts from her own source. In his book, Xavier Poussard admitted the man seen at the inauguration is named Jean Michel and lives above the Tragno family shop in Amiens. Owens does not inform her audience of this fact because it entirely debunks her false narrative. Okay, Mr. Honor, did you hear that? Owens insists that if Mrs. Macron didn't take on the identity of her sister, she would have answered basic questions, ignoring that those answers were in the December retraction demand. That's what I wondered. So Candace has a list of 22 questions that she said she sent the Macrons after they sent her this letter in December. So she said in January, she sent them this list of 22 questions, but they didn't answer the questions. And I wonder if they were going to say, we gave you that information in our original letter, and they just said it here. So Owens closed episode 4 by continuing to build her false mind control narrative, citing the book Chaos about the Charles Manson murders and the CIA. She claimed these topics are very relevant to President Macron's story, reinforcing her defamatory suggestion that his identity and career are products of covert psychological manipulation. So that's what they're saying. Let me look at some of the comments over here. Thank you for the follow, guys. I really appreciate it if you give me a follow. I don't care for either side, but I love that Candace is in her flop era. If untrue, Candace is as much a victim of misinformation as the rest of us. Whoa, Ray Black. Why would you say? I don't know about that. I'm not buying that because they're saying that Candace says she read the Poussard's book, and they're saying she's just not reporting on everything that's in his book. And they are also saying that there was a article, I think in the Daily Mail, that they claimed debunked this whole theory, and they're claiming that she ignores some of the information there also. Do you understand what happens during discovery? Honey, I more than understand what happens during discovery. I actively participate in discovery on a daily basis. So yes, I understand what happens during discovery. So Mr. Honor says, remember that Jean-Michel was born in February of 1945. That particular man was followed to his place where he hung out, and he informed his friends of his upcoming birthday, but it wasn't in February. Okay. So in order for Candace to prove her claim, she's going to have to bring in somebody who followed Jean-Michel Tragneau to his place, and he's going to have to come in and testify that he said his birthday was not in February. So that's what you're telling me. That's going to be their evidence. I'll believe it if I see it. I will believe it when I see it. Okay, displaying her true motive, Owens justified a request for donations with claims that she is risking her safety to protect children from predatory people like the Macrons. And there we have it. I think is a big part that she says, that's a lot of what she talks about. Then we go on to episode 5, the Who created Emmanuel Jean Michael Macron. So who created him? And so episode 5 is premised on Owens' false and defamatory claim that Emmanuel Macron was specially selected and groomed to be the leader of France so that an unknown secret group of elites could control him. Okay, this is when we start talking about the Rothschilds. And I was a little lost. I mean, I have to admit that I didn't truly follow what she was saying. But yes, she goes there too. She implies that he was some type of Manchurian candidate, handpicked and groomed by shadowy elites. Okay, yes. So she told viewers she would not say much about the Rothschilds, so the episode doesn't get hit on YouTube. I hope I don't get hit on YouTube because I said the name. But suggested they look up proven ties to Epstein, Jeffrey Epstein, and scandals involving PDF and the I word. I don't want to say it so I don't get blocked again. Yes, they actually, so Ray Black is saying, according to multiple reputable sources, he was indeed present at both inaugurations. And they have pictures. They have pictures of him at the inauguration with Brigitte in the same frame as him. Owens portrayed President Macron as a puppet groomed from the time that he was a child, questioning his family ties. Who is his father? He doesn't really seem to have close relations with his parents or these his doctors, perhaps. And then in episode 6, that's when she interviewed Poussard. And I've heard Candace say, why haven't they sued Poussard? Or maybe I've heard people in the comments saying that. And I noticed that Poussard, he said something in the interview that gave me the impression he does not live in France. He said that they had gone to his parents' home and they were trying to intimidate his parents. And it looked like he may not live in France, so they may not be able to get to him. Keela is saying discovery, interrogatories, and production of documents will be quite interesting. It shall be. She should take a DNA test here in the States under court order. Yes. And if the results come back that she is a biological woman, are you going to believe them? Or are you going to say it was rigged? It was rigged. Oh, we have Bridget in the comments. I'm sure it's not the same Bridget, but we have a Bridget in the comments to say my parents aren't in my life, but they definitely exist. Okay, one thing we all know for sure, with 100% certainty, is that there was a man and a woman who was Emmanuel's parents. So we know that for sure. So they also refer to her post that she put on X, where she said Emmanuel Macron married a man, which was illegal at the time that he did it. Yeah, Candace, she has some legal jeopardy here. She has some legal jeopardy. So we will see how this plays out. Well, guys, I have been here for an hour and a half. If you don't follow me, please give me a follow. But it is time for us to wrap up. I have enjoyed this conversation. I have enjoyed the comments and I have enjoyed this conversation. I'll be back. I go live every day. I'm going live every day until I hit 100,000 over on TikTok and until I don't know what the goal is on YouTube, but I will be back tomorrow. So I hope some of you will come back. Please give me a follow so you'll be notified when I go live and we can continue these conversations. But y'all have a good Saturday night. I'll see you tomorrow. Good night, friends.